Hey, everybody, welcome back, and thanks for joining us for this new edition of Construction Tips. I am Nick Blair, and with me today is Lisa Hutt.
Hello, Nick. How's it going?
Doing great. I'm doing great. I want to dive straight into it, but before we get totally into it, just want to say to everybody watching, if you like what we do, subscribe to our channel here, and we're going to put a link in the comments to a place where you can actually refer your friends to work with Bangerdank. So if you're already working with somebody else, that's great. If you want to work with us, you can always reach out to us. But if you know somebody who isn't yet using Sage Intacct and you think that they could benefit from it, you think they could benefit from what we do here at Bangerdank, you can refer them right here. Just a quick disclaimer, this is not financial advice. You should seek consultation from your CPA before you take any action on anything that we're talking about here today. This is just for educational purposes. So let's dive in. Lisa, we're going to talk about year end and audits, right? It's the holiday season right now. We're about to get into the next holiday season, which is audit season. Can you just tell us, for people who haven't yet been through an audit, or maybe this is their first one or they haven't done one in a while, what's an audit and why do they happen?
Yeah, so an audit is a way for a company to provide an assurance to a bank or to some other party that their books are accurate. Now, an audit is not a 100% foolproof. All my balances are correct. So the company is still responsible for ensuring that they are following fraud prevention procedures. They are making sure their balances are correct. An audit is a test of transactions. It's analytical procedures. It's making sure that there's no material deficiencies, looks at internal controls. Auditors provide feedback on recommendations of certain things you need to change in your company. So that's pretty high level what an audit is. There's different levels as well. There's a review and there's a compilation. That's lower level of assurance, but that's generally speaking what an audit is.
And you were an auditor before you got
Yeah.
into the private side, right? So you know
Mhm.
these things very, very well. You did
Mhm.
them professionally for years.
Yes,
So
yes, for years, yes.
it's great having you and your expertise here to answer these questions that I got for you today. So you cool jumping straight into the questions?
Yeah, let's go for it.
The first question that I have for you is, how do you keep track of all the required tasks that you need to do to prepare for an audit? There's a ton going on all at the same time. It's not the stuff that we're doing normally in our day jobs. So how do I just keep track of everything that I need to do?
Sure. So there are different systems to do this. You can have a Microsoft Excel checklist. You can use some checklists inside ERP softwares. You can also use something called Blackline. That's a reconciliation software that integrates and talks with your ERP systems. So there's multiple different ways to do it. On top of that, the auditors will also provide you a list of required items they would like ahead of time before they come out in the field and come to your office and audit your entity. So in order to keep track of all this, you should use some sort of checklist mechanism. Okay. So I'll show you an example with the current accounting software that I have up now, Sage Intacct. Okay, so just as a demonstration, there are checklists inside Sage Intacct, and these are called assignments of a checklist. Okay, so the checklist is the audit checklist or month end checklist. Okay, so I'm displaying an example of a month end checklist that you could deploy in Intacct, for example, that would have a list of all the items you need to complete, who's assigned to complete those items, the status, when you're going to start and end it, there's percent completion field as well you could put on here. So what happens is you're going to have these sequenced in a certain order and with a certain start due date, and you're going to have certain people assigned. Some have dependencies. One has to be completed before the other. Okay, that's all inside checklisting. And down here we've got audit PBC list that is specific to your audit. So at year end, you have different items or additional items on top of your month end checklist that you will need to complete. So this came from an auditor. So you have things like you need to analyze your accounts payable and accounts receivable at year end. overdue ones. You need to pull subsequent bank statements and have those ready for January 2025, for example. Okay, so there's a list here of things just as an example of what some auditors might ask for. Okay, or other tasks you need to do regardless of the audit, like running your 1099s, right? So that's a pretty short list. Some lists are pretty long with auditors, depending on how big your company is. Now, if you want to complete them or you want to change the status on them, you're going to use the checklist assignments here, and you're going to come in here and complete them or change the status on them. So you're just going to come in here and change the status or put a different due date. So this is where you complete things, make notes as well. Okay, you can drag and drop attachments as well. So your subsequent bank statement, you just drag and drop a PDF, let go right here. It loads that attachment into the checklist. Okay, so having some sort of repository, some sort of organized system to prepare for your audit and the documentation needed is the best practice approach. So you do not want to have multiple people communicating with the auditor either. This is one place everything can be loaded, and then one person can be sending out those documents to the auditor. Okay, you want to keep consistent and not have 5 different people talking to the auditor. You want a consistent story. You want a consistent approach to the audit. Okay, so there's some side tips there.
Awesome. Now, are people going to have to send documents ahead of time to auditors? Are they going to ask for a list? Am I going to get this list from them? How's that work?
Yeah, so when you are assigned a task, let's say, for getting subsequent bank statements, then Betsy here could go to the bank website, download it, drag and drop it onto that attachment field. And then if I am the controller or CFO, I could then come in here, pull it, send it to the auditor. Okay. The other approach is you could give your auditor very limited access, even if you want. You could give them limited access to just this area, right? Then they could come in here and pull what they need. You can also give them more robust access, but depending on your relationship with your auditor and how you feel about that, you can use different permissions. So it's a choice you have, but a lot of people will just come right here and have the auditors pull from right here.
Excellent. So that's keeping us organized. That's keeping us on the same page. We want to make sure that only one of our team members is communicating with the auditors so that that information flow is consistent. And so we're not telling multiple different stories or I have this piece of information, they have this piece. Everyone should funnel that information through one person.
Yep. That's a good practice. Yep.
Those are great tips.
Sometimes the auditor will want to talk to multiple people to corroborate something. So there's other conversations that will happen outside of one person, but generally speaking, usually one person should be responsible for sending the information out.
All right, Lisa, that brings us to our final question. It's a multi-part question, but I want your 5 best tips for how to prepare for your audit this year. I know you've already brought up one. You gave us a little teaser that we should have all our information going through one person internally out to our auditors for clarity and for consistency of communication. What would be your other 4 tips that you have for us today?
Yeah. So one of them is you should have substantiation for all of your balance sheet accounts. You should have some sort of reconciliation. It's not going to be an activity of the account. It's going to be a reconciliation of what is the balance made up of. Okay. Another one would be some income statement analysis that you should do. So you should look at your labor costs divided by full-time employees. And what is that factor? Compare that to last year. Some income statement analysis you should also do. If you're not sure what your auditors look at, you could also ask them. So you could have some of that analysis prepared for them. Okay. The third one, I would say you want to make sure your vendors are properly approved by someone else. So if your AP clerk is adding vendors into your system, you want to make sure that your controller or CFO is approving those vendor additions. That is something people are frequently getting dinged on their audit. They're getting a deficiency or a recommendation that they need to have a vendor approval process. Okay. Another one would be you want to review your prior year audit, your prior year recommendations. You want to do this earlier in the year or throughout the year. Make sure you're not repeating your same mistakes from last year. So you want to make sure you address those deficiencies and not wait till year end to do it. Okay. So you want to do that actually early on. And you also, we already brought this one up, but you want to have one liaison for the auditors as much as possible. Sometimes the auditors will want to corroborate their conversation with you, with someone else in your company, but most of the time you want to funnel documents through one person. Okay. So I'm going to dive into a few items on the balance sheet substantiation and go into detail on a few of these, and then we'll wrap up here. So the balance sheet substantiation, if you're on a trial balance or you run a balance sheet, you literally want to go down through each one of these accounts and provide backup to each one of these. Okay. You can also make your checklist more robust, and you could have a task for each balance sheet account and load that substantiation into that actual assignment. Okay. Blackline is another software that integrates with Sage Intacct and many other ERPs that provide that exact need for your balance sheet reconciliation. That's what it's built for. Okay. So that one is actually exactly what Blackline does. But you can use the checklist to do it. It's just a little more manual. Okay. So if you're going to want to go through all of these, make sure you have an AR aging. It matches to this, a balance. You've got your WIP management tool that's in Intacct right here. Your WIP schedule matches up to your balance sheet and your income statement accounts. You want to make sure your AP aging matches and your payroll liabilities are reconciled. Okay, there's a lot more on here. We aren't going to go into detail on each one of them here, but in general, you want to have all of these have some sort of backup schedule or documentation, what the balance is. Okay. So the second thing I brought up was the income statement and analyzing your income statement. You know, your auditors look at certain factors, certain calculations, you know, full-time equivalent, your labor divided by full-time equivalent employees. What is that factor compared to last year? You know, they'll look at things like, they'll analyze like, why did office supplies go up so much, you know, from last year? So you want to look at your income statement as well and get a feel for like comparing current year to prior year or comparing certain metrics, right? You want to look at your ratios as well, like current ratio is a good one. You have, you know, all those different KPIs that you can measure using. There's actually KPI performance cards on the dashboards that you can use as well that will, I'll show that in a minute, that will do those calcs for you. So there's a lot of softwares that do those for you. You just want to be aware of ones that significantly change. So you're ready for that conversation with your auditor. The vendor approvals, I do want to show because that is something people are getting hit on pretty hard. So in Intacct, for example, and in other softwares as well, you can do a vendor addition here, and then you can have a second person in your company come in here and approve it, where I can still put bills in the system, but I can't pay the vendor until the controller or CFO or someone approves the vendor. Okay. So on the vendor record, you might want to load the W-9. You might want to load the insurance certificate or the certification that they are licensed to be a contractor in your state, right? So certain things need to be checked before you say it's a legitimate vendor. And so the approver is going to want to check the vendor record and make sure that certain things are loaded on the vendor record before approval. Okay, so that's a big one. And then reviewing your prior year audit recommendations and having the one liaison. I'm not going to really show anything on that, but you do want to make sure you pull up your prior management letter, your prior recommendations from your auditors last year, and just make sure you have addressed those in some manner. So as far as the KPIs go on what you can do in Intacct, for example, again, they're in other spots. I am going to show this bonding one. I believe that has them on there. So we have these KPI performance cards up here at the top that can address working capital, but I can also do ratios. Current ratio, for example, I can show my backlog. Now, this is a sample company, so be aware these numbers are very strange right now. But you can have cash balance change from this year to prior year. You can have your cash flow statement analyzed. You should analyze that as well. So that's loaded here. So dashboards are powerful to look at information at a quick snapshot. and you can quickly see if I've got a problem, and then you can dive into it harder with more reporting in the systems. So high level, kind of what you should look for when you're doing an audit. And the 5 key ones I would definitely focus on. There are some construction specific things that you should be aware of that we can go into as well here for a minute. But I definitely would make sure you at least hit those 5 things we've addressed for sure. Okay. So I want to talk real quick about a few construction ones, and then we'll end here. The construction specific audit issues you want to be aware of are, one of them, a big one, is related to change orders. Okay. Unrecognized, unsigned change orders. So if you are in a position at your end where you've done some work on a project and you have not got a signed change order yet from the owner, okay? Obviously, construction companies, and Nick's probably like, why would you do that? Probably don't want to do the work till you get the signed change order, right?
Right.
So if you're in a situation, though, where you had to keep the project moving and maybe you thought you had the signed change order, but you didn't, okay? You might do the work at a time. You will want to have to analyze the probability of getting that change order signed, okay? You also want to make sure that you have a price that can be reasonably estimated, and you have no significant dispute on this change order, okay? So those 3 requirements you have to address when you consider, can I recognize this change order, this owner positive revenue change order? Can I recognize that at year end or not? Okay. There's specific accounting rules, and your auditors will help you with that. But you definitely want to analyze any unsigned change orders at year end, especially if you've recognized the cost already in December of that year. Okay. Or prior. Okay. So that's kind of a high level, kind of some things you should look at when you're preparing for your audit, and some tools you can use. Nick's going to put some comments and some links as well on the video, I believe. So we can show you another tool as well that I mentioned, the Blackline, that can help if you have a very long balance sheet. Okay, that helps automate that a little bit too.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. And we'll have a lot more good information coming out here in the next few weeks, but this is just to get us started before that audit hits, so you can start preparing for it now. So thank you all for joining us. And thank you, Lisa, for sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you.